Ever since I started investing in November of 2024, I've had to come face to face with a lot of habits that I've created surrounding wealth, money, and finance that I never would have really faced if I hadn't come down this financial path and started learning financial literacy. The psychology that's involved in investing and finance is very, very in depth. Which you don't realize until you start. Money really seems like just a tool or a transaction piece or a bartering system before you start learning about it. But once you start learning about it, you really understand how you can utilize it and use it to benefit you. And it's something that they really don't commonly teach you. Growing up, where did we get our perception of money? Usually it would come from either our parents or the people around us, or it would come from school typically. If you look at our parents, most of them, for most of the middle class, weren't investors or asset holders. They were typically holding on to their currency and saving. Your parents simply taught you what they were taught, and what they were taught was not the correct information because school does not teach you to become a boss or become an owner or become an asset collector. It teaches you to become a worker, which is exactly what most of our middle class parents were. They went through the system and became exactly what the system wanted them to become. They passed down the information they learned to us and told us that we need to get a job and do the same steps that they did, even though it was clearly a similar rat race situation where they're chasing money, can't afford to pay their bills, get stuck in that exact same system and have to work in a job that they don't love until they inevitably cannot afford to retire. Their lack of financial literacy was not their fault. They simply did not learn that in the schools that were meant to make warehouse workers more than they were supposed to make free thinkers and owners, employees rather than employers, if you will. For somebody who's not very fiscally literate, they might think that going to work and working for 40 years, getting a pension, and just saving against inflation isn't too bad. It protects you and gets the bills paid. But somebody who is financially illiterate will see that your money is dying to taxes, inflation, and bank fees before you actually protect any of your wealth. This is why the asset holders and the rich seem to always be getting richer, while the middle class seem to be getting poorer even though they do everything right. They go to school, get a job, get a diploma, do everything in the rat race that they were told to do to live the American or Canadian dream, and yet they still seem to fail. You can see that the system wasn't designed for you or the average family to win. They don't even give you the knowledge or access to the knowledge to learn it. And when they do, they make it way overly complex and make it hard for you to learn the knowledge in the first place. So it isn't your parents' fault that they didn't start investing, or that they weren't smarter with their money. They were taught to be exactly how they were, to save, aim for a pension, and hold on to their money. Real estate was the biggest investment opportunity to them, and many of them felt like they were priced out of it. And the reality of it is, they were. The whole idea that the rich are the only ones that can invest, or the rich are the only ones that can hold assets, or that investing is a scam does start from somewhere. And it starts from our parents not understanding these concepts because they saw rich people manipulate the system and people that had more capital and more knowledge manipulate the systems that they weren't able to get entry into. And this wasn't for a lack of knowledge. Often it was for a lack of capital or a lack of being able to hire a broker. See, the times were different. Nowadays we have Wealthsimple and online brokerages where you can buy fractional shares any time of day, almost sometimes when the markets are closed, all through the afternoon and night on certain trades. You can do options and you can do, use leverage, not suggesting any of this. I'm just saying we have plethoras of things at our fingertips that they didn't even understand or have access to. They had to pay brokerage fees. They had to hire a broker. They had to call somebody, and that call could only be made once or twice a year. There was no fractional fees. They had to buy full shares. You want to buy Google, you better be able to pay the full price, and you got bills coming up, right? So it was a different world back then. It did feel like only the rich were able to invest and hold assets. It did feel like a scam, and that's why when you started growing up and you thought that you should hold assets and you were having these conversations with your parents and asking what formed their money habits and why they're saving and what their goals are. They didn't talk about investing because that wasn't a part of it for them. They were never able to achieve that back when it was inside of their environment. When they were in their 20s and they had their most disposable income, investing was not possible like it is today. You have the largest opportunity of almost all time now, being in your youth, with the disposable money that you're making, with the opportunities at your fingertips through these investments, through these online brokerages. You don't have to go through a bank and pay $5 a trade. You don't have to pay any management fees or anything. So when we're talking about the psychology of finance and the psychology of money, it's clear that we are surrounded by habits that are created from our parents and generations above us, passed down from our grandparents to our parents. It's created from the educational system. It's created from schools that failed to teach financial literacy. Here in Canada, we only have business and civics courses. I think maybe just this year they started at a grade 12 financial course, so we are getting there. But for our generation, as another example, our parents weren't exposed to the investment world. We weren't exposed to the financial literacy world. We didn't get those personal finance classes. I believe the younger generation is, so they're fixing that. But the educational system failed us. They didn't teach our parents. They didn't teach us because it worked in their benefit. They wanted people who worked, that paid taxes back to them, that paid the bank fees so that the banks could make money, and the banks are always available to bail out the government. It's all a big circle, using the worker as the financier. But if you use that finance for yourself, instead of consuming it and using it the way they want, what if you changed your psychology on the way you look at money, instead of viewing it as something that is just used for consumables, and changed how you looked at it? Change your psychology on money as a whole. Many of us grew up with consumer parents that didn't understand how to protect their wealth from inflation, so they just spent it. And those are habits that we grew up with ourselves, and we would pass down to our children if we don't fix ourselves and we don't analyze and rectify. So, what really is money? Money is a tool to be utilized to buy back your time. Money is time because you spend your time working towards money, but that money that you earn, instead of being used on consumables, can be used to purchase back your freedom. And that's the important part that most people miss out on. If you're not reinvesting that money back into your life to purchase your freedom, that money is a waste to you. You are spending your time for nothing. You're spending your time for that video game you bought or that food you bought, while your bills and your debt increases and your lifestyle gets harder and harder to maintain. You need to be investing in purchasing assets so that your money and your net worth keeps increasing over time and compounding over time, so that you're always able to afford everything that you want and have financial freedom. You don't want to be restricted to a certain job that you hate and not have the option to leave it while you feel disrespected at that job, or you feel like you're making too little and you can't make ends meet. You want to be able to have that security so that if you need to go somewhere else, money has now become a tool for you to buy back your freedom. It's that fuck you price, that if you have that emergency that you need and something needs to happen, you can say, fuck you, I have enough money to cover this. If you have that bad boss at work and they're giving you so much trouble and that you feel disrespected and you can't take this place anymore, then you better have that fuck you money to go. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to leave that situation and you're going to feel real stuck there. So money isn't just a consumable good. It's not just something that we barter and trade with. Yes, you can take it and go buy a sub with it for sure, but you can also analyze what a solid investment is and pick some solid investments in order to compound your net worth in that same money instead. That same money that you're spending could be used to grow future generations for yourself. That same Apple product that you're purchasing, you could buy an Apple share instead. And there's lots of money systems that you can use in your mentality to protect yourself from making a purchase, like waiting 48 hours. You should always be looking at any consumable you purchase in a matter of time spent. So if you spend an hour at your job working for $17 an hour and you're about to buy a $17 sub, you should probably not buy that because that's an hour of your time. Maybe just make a lunch. You're literally spending time to spend money to save time, and it sounds kind of redundant when you think of it that way, right? Why are you spending money to save time when you're already spending time to earn that money in the first place. It doesn't make sense. What does make more sense is earning that money and making that money work for you, making that money make more money on top of what it's already worth, so that you can create income on top of the income you already have. It continues compounding and it continues growing, and you continue building assets for yourself all through your generations, rather than just getting a sub every week. Learn how to budget. Learn how to identify expenses that aren't necessary from your budget. Start removing those excess expenses. Take that money and start attacking debt with it, or build an emergency fund in case something ever happens. That's very important. And if you've done both of those things, then you can start researching what investments you want to go into and what assets you want to purchase to start making yourself more wealthy in the future. Identify your risk tolerance. Decide what your investment plan and what your investment strategy is going to be. Make sure you're prepared and calculated. Do your research. Always research every single thing that you're thinking of purchasing when it comes to assets. Do your research on what account you should hold it in. Do your research on everything before you start. But the most important part is just getting started. Change your psychology on money. Change your bad habits that you grew up with, and change your life. Your free future self will thank you.